Boom.
Hit the go. Hit the go.
Here we go.
Let's go.
To the moon.
To the moon. AMC, GME, Iron Theory, ITT, to the moon.
Yes, sir.
That's not how it works, but
Bros and brolettes.
Vikings. Well, let's let the screen go. Oh no, wait, we do it now.
Yeah,
we do it now.
Didn't we always do it like
I
that?
don't know. You start this one.
All right, bros and brolettes.
Vikings and Valkyries.
Welcome to Iron Theory.
Your podcast about fitness, life, and everything in between.
I'm Chris.
I'm Arthur.
I'm actually surprised I didn't tongue twist myself there by me starting it and then just figuring out what the next thing was being said, because I was like, okay, this is about to happen.
I think the first time we did it backwards, I actually said I'm Chris.
Yeah, and then I just went with it. I'm Arthur.
We went with it.
Fuck it.
We're doing it live.
Fuck it, we're doing it
as
live.
we always do.
Yes.
All right, team, ladies, gentlemen, and people not otherwise described by the gender binary.
Circles.
Welcome to Iron Theory. We are. So let's just hop right into today's topic, and that's going to be kind of motivation. Now, this is something we've talked about before, but we're doing it in a different way, and that's what happens when you lose motivation.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as, staying motivated, and this could be, overnight. That might be that same day that you lose motivation. So, how do we get out of that specific little rut, that little mental block that might be, doing that. So that's kind of the topic today. Yeah.
Before we dig too deep into it, I mean, at one point, for anything you started, right, you were motivated to start. I mean, especially since this isn't like our job or anything, right? We don't get paychecks from it. This is just a hobby. What motivated you at first? What was your initial push, your initial motivation? What's got you started?
As far as, are we talking podcast? Because, I mean, I can
Ooh.
shit. Because that's what anyways. Because people will find, besides just fitness, right?
Right.
Because I brought up the podcast, what inspired me or motivated me to start that? I think it was just the initial of just being within fitness and just enjoying what I was doing, and then I felt like I had a lot to say as far as stuff that kind of correlated to that specific topic of fitness and all that other stuff. So and I feel like it's a good exercise to just kind of an exercise in itself to just kind of just talk these ideas out. So I think that was the ultimate trigger for that for me.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about doing something like this for a long time at the gym. Like we were shooting the shit. We were like, hey, we should do this, we should do that, we should do that. And then
just sitting on the bench between sets, sweating our butts off, talking about, hey, we have stuff to say. Hey, there's things we want to express, whether it's through this podcast and other things that will be remained quiet for now until we get that ball rolling. But right. So there's just a lot of drive, I think there's a lot of passion there. So that's why this took off.
You definitely started us off. Like I remember you bought the microphones that I'm like, oh shit, it's happening. It's actually happening. Yeah. Like Chris.
Thanks,
was
coronavirus.
The person who got...
Thanks, coronavirus.
Thanks, Rona.
Thanks, government money. I was just sitting on my ass collecting checks. I'm like, fuck it. You know what? What else? Literally, let me just go off on this tangent. It felt cool being, laid off for a little bit, right? So I had a few months. So back in March, my gym specifically closed and all those other gyms closed, and this is kind of a nice little segue to everything else we will talk about because I can just branch off of that anyways. So my gym closed and I was laid off back in March. So it was March, April, May, June, July. I'll count March too. So about 5-month break where I just wasn't working. It was a vacation. It was 5-month vacation. Unemployment checks, fantastic, right? And, a lot of time to think, a lot of time to see where I'm trying to take, certain things, what am I doing here? Why am I trying to do this or that? So it was in those moments where you just had that moment of clarity because you just have so much time to think. You're not in a routine anymore. You're just like literally just figuring shit out. And then come about July when, or even like before that or whatever, right before I was even working again. But you and me built the gym in my garage, the Iron Theory gym, and yeah, we were just shooting the shit. We were like, you know what? We were going on it back and forth as if we were doing like a podcast or something like that. And then we were just kind of expressing, our thoughts. And I was like, okay, this is cool. There's a nice synergy going on here because, you and me have known each other since literal birth for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the inspiration just was thanks coronavirus for sure.
and it really was the perfect storm of things because I was still working, right? I remember at the time my job didn't end. I mean, it definitely changed last school year, like near the end of how I was expected to do my job.
A lot of at home.
Yeah.
Work at home.
But I was still working, and then during the summer, right, I still had a project. So I was keeping myself busy. But that's an interesting thing. Like, the freedom of thought, literally the boredom, really, just like the motivation is avoiding the monotony and boredom of not having something to do. Would you say that's part of it?
Yeah, because it's like your brain just automatically takes you to this productive state at least over time. Like eventually you hit that threshold where it's just like, okay, that's enough of vegging out, and your brain just starts going places where it's just like, okay, what if this? What if I do that? But you know what? That's not a bad idea. And then you just start bouncing off of these things in your head, and then that's when I would have these inspirations in my brain, and just then going to you and be like, all right, let me just manifest this. Let me speak these words out, and then make this real.
I think that you bring up a very interesting part of this conversation is that I don't think anybody actually enjoys having nothing to do. I don't think
I agree.
Boredom is ire, right? I think most people really look for and need something to do. I think that's like the natural human condition is we need something to do. Boredom's unhealthy, but people, they don't really sit in boredom. They look for stuff to do. It's almost like if I have nothing to do, it's almost anxious.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of how much of what we do is because of just like trying to avoid boredom.
I think I would argue almost everything. I would say the reason we work, the reason we do so many things as society is honestly just we have this knack to just kind of keep driving forward this machine or whatever to our brain essentially is that machine that we're just driving forward to stimulate in every which way. So I mean that's shit. Not to go too far off the deep end, but I feel like it's pretty relevant to the idea of motivation or finding motivation again. Because I guess a good kind of thing to kind of mention, at least for me, as far as like finding motivation again. Being in my job, I was very comfortable, and it was all cool. And then suddenly when this, this like, bam, it gets you out of this routine that you're used to. It might sometimes be that motivation that you need to, pick yourself up to do something you thought you might not be able to do. Because you felt like you were just like, all right, we're good. We're just driving that.
Actually, yeah, that's interesting. Like a sudden, unexpected break in routine became a motivating factor to just do something different.
Break in the matrix, so to speak.
That's interesting because usually when we think about motivation, is all like, it's like we think about motivation being something that gets you started on something or keeps you going with something. But here, it's almost like you reversed it, right? It's not that you needed motivation to keep going. The break in what's keeping you going was the motivation. And it's not like we're not doing anything different, right? We're just doing extra.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just adding to what we already do.
So, I mean, that was it as far as like, the inspiration, the motivation to just kind of try something new, stepping out of your comfort zone, when it comes down to something that you might want to achieve. Because a lot of people will lose motivation usually because of complacency. Usually they're, especially if we talk about fitness, people, they decide they want to lose weight, they decide they want to put on muscle or what have you, and, they start doing it, what they think is doing it, and they feel like they get stuck. And then at that point, that's when a lot of people will lose that drive or motivation to continue. So what has to happen then at that point? Then something has to, again, like break the monotony of what that might be. That might be switching your training program. That might be listening to a different perspective from somebody else that might, inspire you to re-up on what you might have been missing. Because like a lot of people will get comfortable in spinning their wheels, and they feel like eventually that's gonna manifest into what they think is their result. But the thing about spinning a wheel is you're just going to keep going around in that circle. So so then just having that break point where you cut that circle and then you get this pathway is the medicine there.
And you make an interesting point, because we hear this mantra in fitness, right? Consistency is everything. Consistency is
Always,
everything.
yeah.
Just consistency and discipline. But when we say consistency, we mean in your dedication. So in what you're doing. Doing the same thing even when it's not working, that's not what we mean by being consistent or staying consistent, right? If you're doing something and you have a goal, let's say to gain muscle and lose weight, and something stops or is no longer successful, right? Consistency doesn't mean keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Consistency means you're consistent with your goals, you're consistent in what you want to do, but maybe the way you're doing it just isn't working anymore, right? Your muscles adapted, your body adapted. We're a remarkable machine that sometimes works against us
very quickly.
Very quickly. So you need to adapt. You need to change the stimulus that you're giving your body. You need to do something different. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're at the tip top of a level, right? Seeing weights go up by like half a kilo or like 1 pound every month, that's normal, right? But so at that point, yes, consistency, stick with your programming and trust the system. But if you're a normal, like you and I, right? I mean, we're probably a bit above average. A bit above average, but for us, if something's not working, it's not because we've literally exceeded the capacity of our body and we just need to trust the system. For us, it might be, this just actually isn't working for me.
Yeah, and I think that is for most cases the case where people will take that word consistency, but there's certain things within that consistency that maybe they shouldn't be consistent on, right? So maybe they are eating a specific kind of way and they just haven't fine-tuned their nutrition, or they're being consistently not in the gym. There's many ways you can use the example of consistency, but when it regards to fitness, consistency is going to be the thing that most people have to do. As far as that motivation or drive that we look for to be successful within whatever goal we kind of set out for ourselves, that's kind of where we have to kind of play around with, where it sometimes will take, like for me, maybe figuring out a new training program to get me remotivated again to if my body was getting used to training a certain kind of way, on the brain, the way when I approach the gym and the weights, it feels almost monotonous. I feel sometimes like I'm going through the motions. So that's usually a sign for most people of like a burnout, or you're just overtraining, or strength might be depleting, stuff like that. So that's signs of overtraining. So just switching up my training program to something that might be more interesting, or it might take a slight different approach, whether it's in the way the exercises are done, tempos, blah blah blah. But that might be just enough for mental stimulus for me to kind of reawaken that kind of drive again, where I'm feeling these exercises again, or whether it's like, oh, I'm so excited to hit these workouts or whatever it is.
What actually causes us to lose the motivation? Because we've all lost motivation. And I don't mean like, oh, I just don't want to go to the gym today. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, oh, I just don't want to go at all for like a week.
Yeah.
And we know, and every time this happens, it's one of those, like, the hardest part is actually getting to the gym on those days, right? When we just don't want to do it. The hardest part is like once you get to the gym, it's a Pavlovian conditioning. Mm-hmm. Your brain sees the stimulus of what's in front of you.
Pavlov.
I know, right? Pavlov dogs. Yeah.
Yep.
It's just that conditioning. Your body is all like, okay, it knows what to do, right? Yeah. It might not be the best workout you've ever had, but the hardest part is actually getting to the gym. I'm talking about, like, you lose the motivation to do that. And I know a lot of people come with a lot of excuses and stuff, and as to why they can't do it. It's one thing, but we're not here to talk about excuses. To me, if I lose motivation to go to the gym, it's because I stop seeing the progress I want to see. Or it's usually not because I feel bad or something like that. I mean, yeah. I'll lift happy, I'll lift angry, I'll whatever. That's indifferent.
Yeah.
But to me, if I lose motivation to go to the gym, it's because something just didn't work. Either I missed a PR. Usually missing one PR or one goal won't hit me, but if I miss like 2 or 3 subsequent PRs, I'm just failure never breeds motivation.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned, we were talking a little bit about this earlier. And to an extent I agree. Because you feel like again, it kind of reverts back to what I was saying, where people were, they might be consistent, but within that specific consistency, you're not seeing the desired result. So there has to be some kind of change, or ease off of something, or whatever it might be. But usually that's what it takes, this kind of realization, this thought that you have. It's like, well, okay, I'm my numbers aren't there, or whatever it is. You haven't hit a PR or whatever, or when you did, amazing. And as athletes, we do want to be as perfect, as close to perfect as we can try to, imagine ourselves being, whether it's, hitting that PR or attaining, a specific kind of physique or whatever it is, So then the question is, how do we get out of it? So I guess that's something we're going to kind of elaborate on, kind of discover ourselves as we kind of talk this out right now.
And it is, I mean, it's not just like in the gym or in our athletic life. I mean, I can go into some discussions on the results of like research that's been done in business, in psychology, in education. It's all like, how do you keep your employees motivated? How do you keep your students motivated? And failure, or pointing out failure, or like giving students zeros and stuff like that, research shows that negative or like the negative side of motivation, kind of like, hey, you're doing bad, you need to do better, just doesn't work to motivate anybody. Don't get me wrong, right? There's probably that handful of people who are like, I don't care how many times this beats me down, I'm going to keep going, I'll show you.
Right.
Sure. So I guess some people can be motivated by failure. Oh, Jesus, Lord Almighty Christ. We apologize to the individuals who
listen to that part,
who just got their speakers blown out by.
We were talking about dogs not walking in, and then
by Chris dropping the entire microphone stand that's clipped to the table.
Yeah, it was a little loose, I guess. I was fidgeting around with it a little earlier.
Yeah. Well, here's what happens when you do live podcasts.
Fuck it, we'll edit it. It's fine. There's gonna be a weird like.
Can you just check your volume level to make sure it didn't like change or anything?
Test. Yeah. We're good.
Okay. Dear
Yeah.
God.
Okay. Anywho,
Well,
talk about a break in the Matrix, right? Yeah. Oh shit. Now what? Oh man, I'm woken up.
So we were talking about like how failure doesn't motivate anybody, and like when I think about what makes me motivated to work out, it's actual success. Is like, oh my God, I hit that new PR, or hey, I hit this goal, or hey, that workout went very well. I hit all my sets and reps as I wanted. Everything is awesome. That's what motivates. Success breeds motivation. So I'm sure as a coach, like if somebody doesn't hit their goals, it's one of those like, hey, but look at how much progress you've made so far, right? Positive reinforcement breeds motivation, right?
Right, exactly.
So I think that's very important to remember. And when you lose motivation, we tend to focus on failures a lot, right? And that's easy in our human ape brain, right? In the moment, we focus so much on failures. Long term, we tend to remember successes and happy moments.
Yeah.
But short term, we have this obsession with fixating on failures. And it's very easy for me to lose motivation to train hard when after training hard, I didn't hit a goal.
I mean, I'll just keep it real, as far as like, my own personal experiences with failure and, what that kind of feels like, to an individual, more specifically me. But, maybe people could relate, just being in school, sometimes you think you nail that test or, and it's one of those like make or break tests and you fuck up. And then you like knowing you did, you dwell on that for a while. You can't even like, study properly for another test or whatever it might be, because you're just like, ah, shit, I really fucked up. So, I mean, just like you were saying, yeah, like dwelling on failure is not going to motivate me, at least as an individual. That's not something that necessarily motivates me. But what I learned through experiencing that, a bunch of times in my life, failure through whatever it might have been, is that, even though we do fail, we do eventually. It is a spectrum. So there are a lot. The idea is be more positive in those experiences than those negatives, right? So make sure you're net positive and not necessarily negative or succeeding and rather than failing. But there are lessons to be learned through failure, as I mentioned. Yeah, I mean failure sucks. What can I say?
And then I'm trying to remember, like, anytime I lose motivation and then I regain it, kind of what brings me back to the gym. I remember, so right after Rona, we just started building the gym. This is before we even got the rack or anything. We had a barbell and weights, right? That's what we had.
I need.
And I remember coming in for just a workout for shits and giggles because it's summer and there was nothing to do, right? Because I was looking back on my Instagram literally 2 days ago, probably on Ambien, and I was watching a video of just like I posted like no squat rack, no problem, and I cleaned the weight and I started squatting it,
yeah.
and it was only 135 pounds, but after 2-3 months of quarantining and not lifting, it felt heavy. And I was like, oh, shit, I fucked up. Like, that's bad. But then we got the rack. And I'm like, okay, we're back. Let's do this. I'm like, we had the rack, and that itself was the success, that motivation to like, all right, we got a rack. Let's go. Let's start this.
Right.
And then things just weren't working out. And then I'm like, and what remotivated me to start working out again is I bought the log bar.
Yeah. I mean, that's another glitch in the Matrix, just because it's like, okay. Yeah. All this, and then suddenly fucking log bar in the gym there. So I mean that like just looking at it, using it, just all your senses, just kind of like figuring out what the fuck this thing was enough to like, oh shit, this is interesting or whatever, yeah. Right?
It's like a whole new thing to learn, and oh my god, that lift is complex. It is. Yeah. That lift, like, oh my god, it's like a 50-part lift. It is so complex, and there's so many things to learn how to do it. And it's just like practicing, mastering, do this, do that, work on this, work on that, what's the pull like? Where are your elbows? Just the clean, the press, the balance. Are you gonna split jerk it? Are you gonna push jerk it? Like, are you gonna power press? Like, how? Oh, so many different things. And it was just like, oh my god, I got so excited. Yeah, exactly. Porque no los todos.
Like I wonder if like I'll find that strongman video we did with the conditioning day where it was just a full day of just all that crap. And yeah, I mean, I'm not dogging that at all. Like that was a good workout, you know, as far as on my heart rate, because we were just doing it for like time and shit and distance and all that fun stuff. So plus like just heavy weights. It wasn't like, you know, Taibo or some shit.
I mean, it was like it was like a 300-pound frame carry for quite a distance.
Yeah, from like one end of the alley to the other.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
And just that, like, it's little things. Motivation doesn't need to come from huge life-changing things, right? It could be something as simple as, like, okay, obviously, I do like working out. I obviously still have these goals to lose weight and get stronger, but I need something new, something different right now. And obviously, I love strongman. I love watching strongman. What is one of those pinnacle strongman things? Like the log press. Fuck it, let's learn it. Let's do it. So, of course, obviously, I was in a position where I could afford to, buy a log bar, you know, and I'm very lucky with that. But it was awesome. I still love it. I work out with it for virtually everything.
You did like
I'll do a bench
chest press or whatever, was it?
It's just such a cool instrument to play with. I don't think I'm going to be bored of it for another couple of years. Like, there's so much to do with it.
Yeah, and then you just got to look at it and be like, man, what else can I do with this curl?
Exactly. And it's just, you know, sometimes to regain that motivation is just a little thing. Like you mentioned, a change in routine, a little thing. Like maybe that's all we really need to regain motivation most of the time is just that little push to bring us back. Get something new to get excited about.
Exactly. Like it could be a piece of equipment, right? Like you mentioned. Yeah. Just almost anything. It could literally be, you got a freaking car wash, so you want to drive your clean car to the gym or whatever. Like it could be literally something as that, you know. So I mean, again, it could be the smallest thing. Now, if we want long-term success, you know, when it comes down to more specifically fitness, because you know, for the most part, this is a fitness podcast and everything in between, as we also talked about. Discipline has to be there, I would say, first and foremost. There has to be a discipline to trying to hit a specific goal, because motivation is one of those things that will come and go, right? Yeah. So I would say discipline is one of those things that we should also, you know, just practice good habits and all that fun stuff. But having the motivation is the cherry on top, and I feel like you find motivation through that discipline because you start seeing those results, because then that's your consistency.
And you make a fair point. Discipline really is, like, motivation will get you started on something, but motivation doesn't last forever. And that's where there are people who love what they do. There are fucking astronauts on the ISS who are living their fucking dream job. And I imagine at some point, after 4 months of eating freeze-dried fake potatoes, at some point, one of them wakes up and says, oh, fuck, another day of this shit.
Yeah, because like everybody likes the thought of something. Like they romanticize a specific thing where, you know, in their head it's amazing. It's always going to be amazing. It's going to be this thing that, you know, it's always like rewarding, and it's just nonstop ecstasy. But I think for the most part, it's just not, you know, it's not a realistic thing. And when reality will hit that person, you know, it's like, oh, well, okay, there are days that are not like amazing.
You know what? And I think that's good advice for our listeners. When you lose motivation, especially at the gym, maybe, you know, something you're trying to do a powerlift program and your squat bench dead, maybe they're not progressing quite as hard. You know what? Fuck the program for a week. You'll be fine. Obviously, I mean, if you're 10 weeks out of competition, don't fuck your program. But if you're in the off season and you don't have an upcoming anything, or if you're a bodybuilder and you don't have a show coming up, go to the gym and just be like, hey, I wonder what my max curl is. Yeah. I wonder what my overhead press is. Especially if it's something you haven't done in a while. Like,
what's his name? what's his name? Arnold lookalike guy. Callum Von Moger, who he curled.
Cali Muscle?
No, not
No.
Callum or Calum, the Australian dude.
I don't know who any of these people are.
Well, anyways, there's a video of him on like Instagram, social media, of him trying to do a curl of like 225 pounds with another guy. So they're both standing at the bar like a deadlift, and they lift it up, and they both try to curl it. And he tore his fucking bicep. So maybe you don't want to max out that curl.
Okay, yeah.
Well, at least not in that case. Not 225 pounds.
Perhaps don't.
Unless you're like but there are like professional like curlers or whatever,
there
right?
Are,
like there's a sport for that.
There is a sport for that. And you know, it's like you stand against a wall. Your elbows need to be in a certain position. It doesn't matter. There's a competition for everything. But you know, do something like interesting, like
different.
Maybe try a new AMRAP. You know, like instead of like doing like, okay, obviously powerlifting, only your one rep max matters. But if your 1RM isn't going up, maybe your 3 rep max improved. Maybe your weights that you've been working with just aren't the stimulus your central nervous system needs anymore. I mean, if you're doing 5x5 at a particular weight and your 1 rep max isn't going up, try a 3 rep max. See if your 3 rep max is now your 5 rep max, and you can increase that stimulus, right?
Exactly.
Just do something different, and you know, maybe you'll succeed. And again, success breeds motivation. Success makes you want to do more.
Right, exactly. And I honestly can't remember a case where there really wasn't true. You know, as far as when I had success, I did not feel good. As far as like, you know, trying to do something else, like I just felt like I was like, oh man, I just want to do the next thing, you know, whatever that might be. So for sure, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So I kind of almost started wanting to talk about this in the beginning, but it branched off into talking about the podcast and the motivation for the podcast. But
right, yeah, I did, because it just kind of popped up. Yep.
I think we may have mentioned this once briefly in passing with a previous thing, like when we were introducing ourselves. But what first motivated you to get into the gym? Like, seriously. Like, I mean, when you said, fuck this. This is not I go to the gym twice a week anymore. This is a lifestyle now that I'm adopting.
Yeah.
What motivated you to be like, fuck it, this is my life now?
You know what? I want to say, because when I really decided to do like serious lifting, I think, you know what it was? I think it was walking into my gym's fitness center, and just kind of walking around, and it was in the science building, but they had their health science kind of section. There was the gym attached to that, and a lot of those PTs and people doing kinesiology and stuff were in there, and just kind of walking around, like, and just working out in that gym, just seeing all the weights, just seeing people working out. I think that was the what's the word I'm looking for? The not precursor, but it almost sounds like that word. Let's just use the word precursor.
Predecessor?
Catalyst. Maybe it's catalyst.
I like the word catalyst.
Catalyst. I think that's what I'm thinking about.
A catalyst is something that speeds up a reaction.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the word. That's exactly the word I was looking for, actually. So it was a catalyst to just kind of like, oh man, okay, I did like a week of working out, and I was going to Planet Fitness before that too. So, and just, I guess, being impressed by certain people's physiques and things like that. It's like, man, it looks crazy. It's attainable, man. That would be awesome if I could look like that. The catalyst would have been, you know, being in college on my spare time, going to the fitness center there and just kind of getting in a routine and just kind of going from there, you know. And that was 2012, 2013.
Yeah, it was
something like that.
It was a while back. We've been at this for a while.
Yeah.
For me, it was very different. I mean, I've always been chubby my entire life, so I've been like on and off trying to lose weight, like master yo-yo. I remember my first time was in like near the end of middle school, high school-ish. I actually got a gym membership, and and my mom paid for a personal trainer. I remember him. Big Z was his name, or Big D. It was either it was either Big D or Big Z. I don't know, whatever.
But he was a big guy.
Yeah, he was a big guy, strong dude. And and I didn't know at the time. It was just like, oh, I just want to lose weight. And I did. I mean, I remember in high school, between my freshman and sophomore year, I lost like 50, 60 pounds.
Yeah, I remember.
I lost a fuck ton of weight that time,
your junior year, I just remember seeing you. I was like, damn, you lost a lot of weight. I do remember that.
Yeah, but then I got complacent. I had a girlfriend, and then the gym wasn't. I was playing World of Warcraft. Comfort, complacency breeds laziness.
Spinning wheels.
Yeah. And then I tried again after graduating from high school, right before college. You may remember I was making videos of like the 90-day challenge, trying to improve your self-development kind of thing right before starting college.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I started feeling ankle pain right around that time, and it made stuff difficult, and it just wasn't working. And then turns out that ankle pain was cancer, so that kind of sucked.
Gives you cancer.
Yeah, I know, right? Ska gave me cancer. Long story behind that. So and during that time, man, like people are like, "Oh, chemo makes you lose weight." No, I ballooned to like 300 pounds.
Isn't that crazy how that, like, it's like sometimes an opposite effect?
Yeah. I think it's just because I'm a stress eater.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know the science, like why that would be the case.
Just load up on opiates and prescribed. Obviously, I'm not an opium addict. I was in a lot of physical fucking pain. All right, it was.
Right.
I had a tumor wrapped around my ankle, going all the way up to my knee. I had I had two on my spine, one on my rib, and a golf ball in my neck. Like, I was in fucking pain. All right, so But after all that, oh my God, I was like, 300 pounds. I couldn't really walk. It was a nightmare. And I think what really hit me, and I was probably with you or your brother, or maybe some of my other friends. I can't keep all
interchangeable.
Of you. Everybody's
yeah.
You're all important and special to me, but things. We were by the Adler Planetarium, just like walking around. I don't even know for what. And I slipped and I couldn't get up.
I don't remember being there for that.
And it was just like, oh shit, I'm unhealthy. Like, I'm actually gonna die like this. And my initial motivator for fitness was, shit, if I don't, I'm actually literally gonna die.
Brink of death.
Yeah.
That was the motivation.
Like, I looked at the face of death and I'm like, there is no way. There's a family history of heart disease.
Close that door, man.
I'm dying like this right now. I mean, it was shit. Oh my God, I was pale and just morbidly, like 300 pounds at 5'3", like BMI off the fucking charts. It was fucking bad. I couldn't go up a flight of stairs without damn near dying. Like, it needed to end.
What was the next step after that? Do you remember what like specifically, having those thoughts and being in that position? What was the all right, green light? I gotta go.
I did the only thing I knew how to do, which was Planet Fitness and hop on the elliptical for 10 minutes until you die, and keep doing that until 10 minutes become 15 minutes, until 15 minutes becomes 20 minutes, until 20 minutes becomes 30 minutes, until I ran a half marathon.
Right. Exactly. Hey, man. I mean, burning calories, right? I mean, that's the name of the game for the most part.
And then I don't think I got into like strength sports for years after that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all weight loss until
it was like weights here and there, maybe.
Yeah.
If I was in the gym or something like that.
It might have been not until like, oh my God, 2016, maybe 2017, that it was definitely after I attempted that half marathon and I finished, but it's when I realized that my body's not built for this. And I was strength training on and off, and then, doing weights, but nothing serious,
Nothing that, yeah.
And then I think I just started watching videos, and I'm like, I bet I can do that. And Strongman was on television, and it was just one of those, like, obviously I was on fitness YouTube, so I started seeing recommendations for Mark Bell and Super Training, and the brothers whose channel name I never remember, and Furious Pete, and the Buff Dudes, and all those channels, and I'm like, I actually kind of like this. I like the idea of being strong. I felt weak for a very long time. I wonder what being strong feels like, and that's just what it was ever since.
I think it's poetic, honestly. I think that's poetry in literal motion. Because I mean, like, and given the time frame, I mean, like, your strength then is I would say skyrocketed for being only like a few years. There's people who lift for decades, and they might not be able to make the weights that they do push go up as fast, I would say, as you did from that time frame from like 2017 to 2021.
I mean, I started from fucking rock bottom. Literally.
Where is this?
I've fallen and I can't get up is pretty much rock bottom.
Yeah.
For a 20-something-year-old, that's rock fucking bottom, right? So I had room for growth. I had room to grow.
Now, we mentioned, failure and stuff like that. Would you say that and how success breeds, motivation in that moment, what essentially got you to the point where you started feeling successful? Like, what pushed you to, starting to be in that position to be successful?
The nice thing about starting a weight loss journey when you're morbidly obese is the weight comes off very quickly, very soon, very early. Yeah. I mean, if you start a diet, if you're morbidly obese, I mean, like, your BMI is 40 plus. You're not just obese, you're Discovery Channel obese, right? The weight starts to come off very quickly, and it's not abnormal at all to lose 10, 12, 15 pounds in your first week.
Yeah, definitely.
In your first week.
Yep.
And I remember I lost 10 pounds the first week, 10 pounds again the second week. The first 50 pounds came off in like a month and a half, right? That is very easy that slows down. Obviously,
sure,
because the more weight you lose, the harder it is to lose, right?
Right.
I mean, if you have like 120 pounds to lose, first 100 pounds is easy, last 20 pounds fucking impossible. But yeah, it's very easy to have motivation for weight loss for like the first 2 or 3 months, just because the results are instantaneous and obvious.
The first step you take on that treadmill or whatever, it's going to start
shit's melting off of you. Yeah. It's very easy to be motivated for the first like 2 or 3 months of an extreme weight loss. This is not for the people who are like 10 pounds overweight or the people who like
a few pounds.
Your favorite pair of pants from a year ago don't fit anymore because of winter. I don't mean that. I mean for the people who are damn. The people who cannot comfortably sit on an airplane, the people who get kicked off of roller coasters because the seatbelt don't fit.
Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah, exactly. Those people. The weight loss comes very quick.
Yeah.
Very early, yeah.
But I mean, like, and just coming from a professional perspective, having those clients who are in those situations, with that same exact goal where they start moving, they're very uncertain at first. It's intimidating. They've never worked with somebody like myself before, and just the environment. Like they've never stepped foot in a gym potentially until that first day that they see me. So I can only imagine like how intimidating that could be to somebody who's brave enough to seek assistance, right? But once they start seeing the results, like once they start speaking for themselves, the results, I mean, it's powerful because then that keeps them going, But then it's like, okay, well, what happens when you hit that brick wall, right? Because everybody's going to hit that brick wall, and then they lose that motivation, at least in the time being. And so then what do I do about that? At least, like, what's my perspective of seeing somebody hit that brick wall, and what do I have to do? Because then you feel partially responsible, right? To an extent.
Oh, I can tell you exactly you change the goal.
Yeah.
The moment scale victories your weight loss, the moment that isn't motivating anymore, you need to switch to performance goals. And I know I mentioned this before on the podcast. Once the weight loss slows down, you need a performance goal. So if you're losing weight and suddenly those numbers aren't changing anymore, your goal is no longer to lose 2 pounds. Your goal is now to run a 5K or run a 10K or bench 225 or I don't know. Your goals need to change, and you need to start finding progress somewhere else. Because, again, it's success that breeds motivation. Motivation doesn't come first. Success, then motivation, then more success, then more motivation. That's the cycle you want. And the moment something slows down, and I can only speak to weight loss. I cannot speak to anything else here. The moment your weight loss slows down to the point where it's not fulfilling for you anymore, you need to put away that scale for 2-3 months. Focus on a new goal that does give you satisfaction. And if you've been doing nothing but cardio, strength, newbie gains, beginner gains, comes just as quick as losing weight. So that bench press that's stuck that you're doing 135, you do it because your programmer or your trainer says to do it. Your new goal is 185. Keep going. 135, 145, 155, 160. Fuck.
Lag, real-time lag.
Lag. It's like the video game character running into the invisible wall. Dad.
Yeah.
That is your new thing. And you have, preemptively know that progress slows, know that progress halts.
Yeah.
Preempt that by saying, okay, new goal. Big goal is still the same, but new short-term goal is this, and then we'll pick up the scale later again.
And I guess I'll tell you, when that happens, what do I do about that? Well, usually I take certain precautions. I'll take a bunch of different avenues to make sure that we are checking off all the boxes. So scale is the most obvious for most people, but when you start getting into a body fat percentage where it's just like, okay, is my body just recomping, or what's going on? Because the weight is going to fluctuate sometimes. It might have maybe cut out some carbs, and suddenly you start having a shitload of carbs again, and the muscles fill up with glycogen, et cetera, et cetera.
Body comp is only possible if your body fat percentage is over like 27.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, I'll explain to them, how the body changes, right? What's possible, what's not, how much time can it potentially take? And again, it's all estimates because results vary due to experiences, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, using a tape measure, I think, is my biggest tool that I use to kind of push and show that just because the scale says you're 3, 4, 5 pounds heavier than you were like 2 weeks ago, but then measuring their waist and suddenly they've lost an inch or whatever, half an inch even, or their arms are bigger or whatever, legs are bigger, and they're seeing that as, oh, okay, so that's another thing that just kind of gives them that motivation, because there's success there, right? Or they'll mention their clothes are fitting different. So just so many different ways. And then again, strength goals, your mobility has gotten better. You can overhead press without keeping those shoulders super rounded, and where you can't get it directly over your head, stuff like that, because those are huge victories too, especially in the mobility department. Like, people take that shit for granted, but the second you're able to move properly, even if the weight's not necessarily super heavy, but you're able to do it so clean and perfect, like definition of an overhead press or a squat or whatever, then that's huge, because that means everything's working properly, everything's firing all cylinders. Less likely chance to injure yourself doing being outside, slipping on some ice or something.
So if you're listening to this on every single podcast, Spotify, Google, Amazon app, whatever, and you're just sitting in the car listening to us, maybe this is in the background while you're cooking food, maybe it's in the background while you're having sex, whatever. I don't know. Listen, what you do is up to you.
Listen to Iron Theory.
Gotta listen to Iron Theory while you're doing it. That is a powerful
soundtrack.
That is the fuck with the force of a million suns right there. But whatever you're doing, if you're listening to this, hopefully these gave you some options for finding motivation. I have to admit that I forgot to write a Fake Natty News segment for this week because it was finals week and I've been preoccupied, but I think we should do it live and just improvise.
Yeah, fuck it.
Let's do it.
Let's
do it.
Who starts?
Well, hit the screen.
Oh, right. That's right. We do
Give
have
me that.
I forgot about that. I thought we were just going to super, like, that's right. They got to hear the music happen, right?
Give me the music. Give me the
All right,
news
here we go.
music. Let's go. Yeah. Fake Natty News Network. Breaking Spine. Those stories that matter. Form breakdowns. Important facts. Also, 100% fake news. Jim Bro interviews. Oh, you're going to have one of those too. Fake Natty News. The 3 people who definitely tell you that you're a fake natty. Look at them. You just see the smug ass look on them. All right. Welcome to Fake Natty News, your most trusted source for news. I am Popeye the Sailor Man.
I am bend over. And these are your stories.
New York was pummeled this week with one of the largest snowstorms that have ever happened, and local gym bro Bob Gardanzo was outside trying to shovel his snow when he felt a pain going through his lower back. Bob was very dismayed because he lifts very heavy weights in the gym all the time. He trained for this. How could the snow possibly betray him this way? Bob did finish shoveling the shit. Bob did finish shoveling the shit and then went home, took an ibuprofen, and unfortunately has not been seen in the gym for about a week.
Clap.
Is that the best I can
Clap.
do off the top of my head? Bob Gardanzo.
John Doge was walking his dog down the street after a day of heavy deadlifting more specifically, and felt like his back was in some pain.
Wow, we both went with a back pain news story.
Hey man, like this is how improv works, right? Fuck it. Back
Yes,
pain.
and.
Yes. So anyways, he's walking his dog, John Doge is walking his Doge, down the street. And, you know, it's the most cardio that John Doge has done all week. John Doge notices that his dog is taking a shit, and his dog has a very rounded back. He corrects his dog as he's going for his 3 shit max PR.
3 shit max.
Straining as he's pushing these turds out of his little Doge body, saying, "You got this, Doge, you got this, Doge," as his back rounds further and further where his tail just curls right under his butt, and then proceeds to pick up his shit. He said, "Good rep, 1 rep max, bro." Doge said, "These are your stories." That's the best I had. That wasn't too bad.
It wasn't terrible. I like the 3 shit max. The 3 shit max.
I had to use like relevant. It's like, okay, all right, I got a dog. Okay, how can we kind of just like improvise? Hey, you know, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
We're not improvising. I will remember to actually write a script.
This is pretty entertaining. I would say that was pretty entertaining.
Here, how about next week? You write my part. I write your part.
Okay.
But we don't read it ahead of time.
Okay.
So it's not improvised, but
It's a react.
It's like full on. It's like what's his name from SNL? New York's hottest club is Boof.
Fucking Stefan.
Yeah, Stefan. We'll do it like Stefan, where I'll write your script, you'll write my script. We can't read ground rules. Nothing that will get us canceled.
Yeah, nothing that can get us canceled.
Nothing that can get us canceled.
Fair enough. All right.
Okay, let's.
I like.
That's the end of the podcast. I'm not ranting.
All right. See you guys
need to
next
pee.
time.
I need to pee.
Deuces.